Hello and good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the Monday, July 25th, 2022 Gardner, Kansas Planning Commission meeting. Would everyone please rise and state the Pledge of Allegiance with me?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now move into roll call, starting on my right.
Commissioner Souza here.
Commissioner Ham here.
Commissioner Hanson here.
Commissioner Mader here.
Commissioner Juniman here.
We have 5 members of the commission in attendance and 2 absent. That indicates quorum, so we are good to move on with the meeting. Consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Planning Commission for study. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item from either the Planning Commission or from the floor, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. Is there any item any member of the public would like to have moved from the consent agenda? Any item any member of the commission would like to have moved from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Hanson with a second by Juniman that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries with 5 in favor. Regular agenda item number 1, Gardner Medwise, Site Plan SP-22-01 on the north side of East Main Street, approximately 250 feet east of North Cedar Street. Do we have a staff presentation this evening?
We do.
Great.
This application is for a site plan for Medwise, an urgent care clinic. The subject property includes approximately 0.8 acres of land that is located on the north side of Main Street between the Freddy's and the Quick Trip. The property is zoned C2 and is on Lot 2 of the Blue Valley subdivision. Gardner, or the Freddy's, is located on that Lot 1 just to the west. This site is within the Gardner Main Street corridor plan, and that proposes uses such as grocery stores, restaurants, retail stores, and this use is compatible with what that plan says. The site plan provides access through a shared drive with Freddy's off of Shawnee Street to the north, and then also a shared drive with Quick Trip to the east. These cross-access points were shown on the Freddy's plan when it went through. The building benefits the function and design of the adjacent properties by providing for the continuation of those drives between the internal lots, and it will let people drive back and forth, or get to one and then be able to go to Main Street, because they're trying to minimize those access drives onto Main Street with the project. The facade meets the architectural standards of the LDC, and staff finds that the site is capable of accommodating the building's uses and other site design elements. The design and arrangement of the building and open space is consistent with good planning and landscape design, and the architecture and building design uses quality materials, and the style is appropriate for the surrounding. And the plan is in substantial compliance with the code. One note, they do have more parking than what our code will allow, and in your attachments they provided a letter requesting for more, which is what our code would require. Staff recommends the approval of the site plan with the conditions outlined in the recommended motion.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant with us this evening? If so, anything you'd like to add or presentation, please come forward, state your name and address for the public record.
Yes, good evening. John Chamberlain with Kimley Horn and Associates, 805 Pennsylvania Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri. We are in agreement with the conditions that have been suggested by staff for the project, and we are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Very good, thank you.
Here.
Okay, we'll start with the commission discussion. We have our applicant with us and obviously staff, so Commissioner Souza, I'll start down there with you if there's any questions, comments.
I read the paperwork that was provided. I don't have any questions.
Okay. Commissioner Ham?
Comment, glad to see that we're staying off of adding additional entry and exit off of Main Street. I'm happy about that. Also, thank you for providing the letter, justifying why we needed the additional parking spaces. So everything seems pretty straightforward to me, so I'm happy with that.
Thank you. Commissioner Hanson?
Same comment regarding the letter. It was kind of nice to get an explanation as to why we were requesting the deviation there. I guess the only question I would have would be for staff. Are there any reservations or concerns with the extra parking that will be taking place, assuming approval?
No, I don't think there's any concerns. The first condition on the suggested motion is intended to mitigate what we would consider maybe visual concerns coming from the primary public access or visual access that they have along Main Street. So that's why we want to beef up that landscaping a little bit. That internal road that connects with Freddy's, I imagine we'll see some traffic that is going against the traffic on Main Street. So we're going to want that landscaping to kind of help to block some of the headlights in the evening hours and night hours there. So that first condition in particular is intended to address those concerns. So when we get that landscape plan and see that, we'll be able to see how well it's mitigating things.
Super, thank you. Everything else looks good to me.
Commissioner Juniman?
I don't know. I just thought the comment about the parking. I still think it's pretty excessive. Just knowing, being a civil engineer, knowing trip generation manual. I don't know. It just seems like those urgent care clinics do have a lot of parking spots, and especially the one on the east side of town here, it's not very full. I'll admit. I appreciate the letter, but I don't know. Just more parking is more hardscape. More hardscape is more runoff, and more runoff is more flooding. So, I mean, 29 is a lot, especially when, you know, it said the required amount was 15 or 16. There was a discrepancy. The plan said 15, but the letter said 16. So I didn't know what exactly the required amount was. But I don't know. I thought maybe 25 would be like a good compromise, but 29 seemed like a lot to me. So, other thing I just kind of noticed looking through the engineering plans, they had a Missouri PE stamp. I know. I looked up, the engineer is a Kansas PE, but just need to get those updated on the plans. And I thought the building looked unique. I like the design of the building. I looked up some pictures. It looks like there's some more Medwides down in Tulsa, and very, very attractive looking buildings, and I think it'll match really well with the red on the Freddy's and the red on the Quick Trip. So.
Good. A question to staff. With that point out, that call out that Commissioner Juniman made about the updating on plans, is that anything that might need to go into a motion, or it's just duly noted from the discussion?
Yeah, I think we can duly note it as part of the discussion to ensure that we have those Kansas stamps on there. They will have to submit their construction documents and things like that, which will be reviewed by Public Works and by Community Development. So at that time, we will certainly be looking for those stamps as appropriate. So I don't think necessarily we need to worry about it being an emotion at this point.
Great, thank you for the clarity. I as well, I didn't have any other concerns, just the side comment echoed by the rest of my commissioners, or some of them, regarding the limiting of access to Main Street. I think that's a good thing. Definitely need to continue to limit where we're able to.
Yeah, I'll just do a brief comment for the
Sure.
commissioners and for the audience that's here tonight. Obviously, with the Main Street project, the KDOT work that's going on, part of that is intended to rearrange some of the access points. There will be some properties that will go to some shared arrangements with their access points. So we're anticipating a reduction of overall access points as part of the project. And then as part of new projects, they need to meet the access management requirements of both KDOT and the city through that stretch. So much of this has to do with meeting the KDOT standards.
Great, thank you. If we don't have any other questions after the discussion, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'd be glad to make that motion. After review of application SP-22-01, a site plan for Gardner Medwise, the north side of East Main Street, approximately 250 east of North Cedar Street, the Planning Commission approves the application provided the following conditions are met. 1, provide additional landscape along the east and south sides of the lot to mitigate the additional parking spaces over the maximum allowed by code. 2, provide documentation that the site is allowed to tie into either the KDOT or Quick Trip storm sewers and receive approval of a stormwater management plan from the Public Works Department.
I'll second.
We have a motion made by Hanson with a second by Ham. Any questions on the motion? If there aren't none, I'll take a vote on this. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor 5-0. Next item, regular agenda item number 2, Flint Trails rezoning Z-22-06, Associated Preliminary Development Plan PDP-22-05. This is a public hearing item. The northeast corner of West 167th Street and White Drive. Do we have a staff presentation?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Again, thanks, Melissa. I appreciate that. Again, this is items 2A, 2B, and 2C. It's a rezoning petition, preliminary development plan, and a preliminary plat for the Flint Trails development. This property includes 28.86 acres of land located on the northeast corner of 167th Street and White Drive, adjacent to the recently approved University Park apartment project site. The original annex, this property was originally annexed back in 2003 and was part of a larger University Park planned development consisting of office, commercial, multifamily, and apartments, and single-family housing. Unfortunately, the development never occurred, and the single-family component of the original plan is where the University Park duplexes are located and the Tallgrass apartments are now located. The city of Gardner Justice Center was to be the location of a retail commercial area, and this site was also proposed to be commercial and an office center. Again, the development never occurred, and this site has remained vacant ever since. All utilities, though, are available to the site. Surrounding zoning. Zoning to the north is RP2 and RP3. To the east is CP2, and to the south is RP1, and then to the west is just recently is the RP5. The preliminary development plan proposes a 212-unit, 106-building duplex development. This results in approximately 7.6 units per acre. The development includes several amenity areas and meets our open space requirements. The site also includes extending our trail system along the north side of 167th Street. This slide shows the phasing component of the development, with the first phase being shown in pink. And they're proposing a total build out by late of 2024. Comprehensive plan shows this area to be low density residential, which is described as single family homes, but also duplexes or triplexes in a low density format. It translates again to RE, R1, and R2 zoning districts. New growth areas residential plan development should contribute to existing character and identity, meet the LDC, the Land Development Code, design requirements, and be in character with existing neighborhoods. And also allows residents to downsize and stay in their neighborhood. The staff findings that this development is consistent with the is consistent with the character of the neighborhood. Within this planned context, the proposed multifamily buildings are comparable in size and scale to adjacent duplexes to the north and are separated from the existing single-family uses by a large natural buffer around 167th Street. The overall pattern is a lower density format than the proposed apartments to the west and then also the existing tallgrass apartments to the north. This infill lot has long remained undeveloped, and the smaller blocks support greater walkability. The southern tract supports greater open space and a feeling of a low density, which is more consistent with the existing single family to the south. The plan reflects general accepted and sound planning and urban design principles. The benefits from any flexibility in the standards allows the project higher end amenities for the residential and allows for garage structures similar in recent duplex developments. The project will benefit the general public health, safety, and welfare of the community by providing park and open space, utility extensions, and then also the trail system and the public street extension. They are requesting 5 deviations as part of this development, which is atypical of most of our duplex developments that you guys have seen recently. The first of the associated deviations is to increase the amount of hardscape in the front yard to allow for each duplex to have a separate 2-car driveway. The second is to allow the driveway to act as a pedestrian connection between the building and the front sidewalk. The third deviation is so that the right-of-way allows each unit to have a 2-lane driveway. And the fourth is for a rear yard setback for just 2 lots, lot 48 and 61. And the fifth deviation is again that garage standard that is atypical request for deviation. Staff does recommend approval of all the deviation requests. Staff findings on the preliminary plat. The application is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan. The plat is in compliance with the land development code, and the plat does not deter any existing or future development on adjacent lots. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning from CO, Commercial Office, and CP2, Planned General Business Districts, to RP4, Planned Mixed Density Neighborhood District, and associated preliminary development plan and preliminary plat for Flint Trails townhomes with conditions as outlined on the next slide.
Thanks, Bob. Do we have the applicant with us this evening that would like to speak on anything? If so, come forward, state your name and address for the public record.
My name is Cale Joyce. I live at 5408 West 71st Street in Prairie Village. I think I had a PowerPoint. Are we able to cue that up?
Great.
Make sure this works recording. Okay. Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. Thank you for your time tonight. Members of city staff, I appreciate your time and effort to get us to where we are today. I want to start by introducing myself. I'm Cale Joyce, Director of Development for Flint Development. I have members of my team here. We have Steve Harder, who is a project manager with Flint Development, Bob Johnson, shareholder of Polsonelli, his senior paralegal, Amy Grant, Thomas Metzger with Davidson Architecture, and then Janelle Clayton with Merge Midwest Engineering. A little background on Flint Development. We are a Kansas City-based development company, specifically in Prairie Village. We have experience that exceeds 20 million square feet of industrial multifamily assets located across 18 states in North America. And we have a combined over 50 years of development experience. We have current projects coast to coast, so Oregon to South Carolina, Texas to Wisconsin, and a variety of states in between. Here are some metrics on our developed projects under construction, and then our development pipeline. Our development team, again, introduce a few of the members from these various companies. Davidson Architecture and Polsinelli are companies that we use predominantly on our developments, again, from coast to coast. We work very efficiently with them to be on time and complete our projects, and excited to be working with them on this project here. Highlighting the project site, as noted, it's a 28.86 acre development site, proposing it for rezoning to RP4. We believe the location is very favorable for what we're looking to do, and it will add additional supply for the added area to offer renters a variety of rental unit types into the community. This is a multi-million-dollar investment. We're currently projecting this to exceed $50 million to be injected directly into the community here. We'll total 212 units. What's unique about this development is that we are strategically weighted predominantly 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom units, and this is where we feel that we're filling a void within the marketplace here. These units are larger in square footage. They offer backyards, 2-car garages so that we can lessen the congestion of cars in the roads, and we can offer a community that has all the modern amenities of a more common vertical type development, but in a horizontal setting that will make it really just feel like an extension to the neighborhood. We have an amenity package that includes a pool, fitness center, clubhouse, put a lot of time into figuring out trail systems that can add green space to the development. And let's see, so yeah, discussed 4 phases, starting from the east side going westward. We have 3 entrance points here on our development. So on phase 1 in the pink, we will build out the amenity package, the initial units, and then begin leasing up those units so that construction with the additional entrances, construction does not interfere with the people that are living within the community. Understand that this is planning commission meeting, however, we wanted to show some of the exterior designs of these. This is a 2-bedroom unit, single car garage on the 2-bedroom units. This is our proposed 3-bedroom development, 2-car garage. And this is our 4-bedroom. What you'll notice on the right side of the photo, there's 2 lines. These 4 bedrooms are on the corners of the development. We did it this way so each 4-bedroom will have 2-car garage. This is one face of it, but then the garage will be facing perpendicular, and that's sort of noted on this one by those lines on the right side of it. We have 5 deviations that we're requesting approval and support of. They're also requesting the approval of the rezone from CO CP2 to RP4. Any questions we'd love to answer, and again, thank you all for your time.
Great, thank you. This is a public hearing item, so we'll now open the public hearing to comments. Those wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name and address for the public record. Individuals, limit 3 minutes. Those representing a group, 5 minutes. Looks like it's 5 minutes for everybody. That's what's on the clock, which is fine. So if anybody wishes to speak on this item, please come forward, state your name and address for the public record, and be heard. There is no one wishing to speak on this item. I will entertain a motion then to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing made by Commissioner Hanson with a second by Ham. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. The public hearing is now closed. We'll start with commission discussion. Commissioner Souza, we have the applicant with us and obviously staff. Questions, comments that you might have.
So, so I was under the impression this is gonna be apartment, it's not apartment then?
No.
No, this is actually a duplex development.
Commissioner Souza, do you want to take a minute? We can come back, or any other
Yes.
questions? Okay, all right, sounds good. Commissioner Ham?
Okay, so, a couple of things. My first question, this might be to staff more than to the applicant. So we are revisiting 167th and White Drive again, and we had the traffic impact study. I know you know where I'm going with this. So the traffic impact study was on what was there at the time. Now we're adding 200 somehow new units. Do we need to revisit the traffic impact study again?
So what I will tell you, the applicant has their traffic consultant with them tonight, I
Okay.
believe, correct? Yeah, there she is. I'm gonna let her come up and speak to that so that you know that a separate study had to be done as part of this development. It had a series of assumptions like you heard with the University Park one, but they have to build in a different set of assumptions, obviously, with this coming in at this time. So I'm gonna let the applicant's traffic consultant kind of come up, walk you through what the study entails and how they assessed and determined what improvements would be needed. And then after that, I'll talk a little bit about coordination of some of this stuff, so.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. I'm Janelle Clayton with Merge Midwest Engineering, located at 2668 West Catalpa Street in Olathe, Kansas. Yes, so to answer your question, I also did the traffic impact study for the University Park development across the street, so I was very familiar with all the recommendations that we presented for that development. And we included the existing counts that we took, as part of the University Park development, but we also got another count further east on 167th where our proposed drive lines up with that existing driveway to the subdivision. And what I found is the volumes that we counted at that intersection were slightly higher than what we'd counted for the University Park. Fluctuations in months and seasons can do that. So I adjusted the existing counts for the University Park study up to account for those higher volumes. So we started with slightly higher volumes, just existing baseline that we had for University Park. On top of that, we added in all the University Park traffic because that hasn't been built yet, obviously. All the tall grass unbuilt portions that we've seen for University Park, we added that traffic on top of it. The Justice Center is fully built, so we didn't have to add the Justice Center traffic, but then also the unbuilt portions for I'm blanking on the name of the commercial development off Main Street that Plaza, that was included in the University Park study. So we took all that background traffic, added it on top, and then added our traffic on top of that. So we've compounded all the additional traffic in the area that we were expecting and that we know of, and then we also grew that, for a future 20-year scenario. And then what we found was the recommendations were pretty much similar to what we saw, identically, what was going to be needed to accommodate not only this development but the University Park and everything around there. Similar recommendations of what we found in University Park.
Okay, so not much has changed.
Correct.
Like as far as the time, because I think we were talking about with the traffic impact study on the other one, there was like a time frame, I think, for like when we would have to add in like turn lanes or lights or things like that. So does that time frame still like mesh up with the additional traffic from this? Does that mesh up, or are we like moving deadlines closer?
No, we are not moving deadlines closer. So with the University Park development at Moonlight, or excuse me, 167th and White Drive, we were seeing the need for that eastbound left turn lane, immediately with the University Park. And we found that is also needed immediately with this development. So that eastbound left turn lane on 167th needs to be constructed as soon as possible.
Okay.
And then the other improvements kind of came in after we take into all those planned developments that I mentioned, the adjacent traffic. Once all that's fully built out, then the city's going to be looking at traffic signal, warrants being met at those other intersections.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That answers that question.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Ham, also tonight, we've got the representative from Public Works, Robert Davis, is here tonight, just in case there's any questions from the city side. The city's traffic consultant could not be here. They did take a look at this preliminary report and that, though, and have reported to Public Works that everything seemed to be in line, I believe. And so from that standpoint, Public Works is happy with the studies that have been done in this area. That still means there's an impact to 167th Street, but Public Works is working on that from the standpoint of the capital improvements program, which we've talked about before. The design element to improvements beyond what's being required of these developments is in the process, I'll put it that way, with being funded and getting to the design work so we can get the cross sections and understand what really needed as an overall improvement, basically.
I have a couple more. Thank you. This is for the developer. I don't know if you're aware of some of the duplexes that are over there. There's a lot of hardscape in the duplexes that are currently to the south of where you're going. What's the landscaping looking like for this subdivision? Is it going to be, since we're asking for you're asking for the deviations on the driveway to accommodate the garages and things like that, is it gonna be nothing but concrete? Are you guys gonna to where the driveways are broken up?
Hi, yes. I think that's a very fair point. I understand that. No, we don't look at this as having entirely concrete roads, sidewalks, and do not see this as looking down a neighborhood and seeing nothing but garages. In fact, I've been working very closely with our architect. Have him probably give a few more words in detail about the landscaping and how some of those deviations work. But that is one thing that I've been working very closely with the city to make sure that we're not achieving that. So.
My name is Thomas Metzger. We will be providing all the landscape that's required by the city. It's not what the requirements aren't changing with any of the extra drive we have. We will be providing landscape plans as we move into the final development plan. So there'll be full plans developed as part of that. But at this point, we plan on, it's going to be a nice landscaping. It's going to meet the requirements that you have, and we're not looking for any deviations in that area.
Okay.
And so, Commissioner Ham, just so you're aware too, the situation here, if this gets approved through City Council, the final plan still comes to you, and a lot of those details are part of that final development plan submittal. So the Planning Commission will see this again if it's approved through the City Council.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, Commissioner Hanson?
My question was kind of similar to Commissioner Ham's question, and that has to do with the hardscape and whether or not the city actually has the infrastructure to handle all the extra runoff water, storm drain that's going to be needed from all of these various projects that are going in at this location. I know that the creek down there can overrun from time to time, and this is certainly not going to make that any better. So are we going to have to make improvements as a city to accommodate the extra hardscape?
Yeah, so there's several things going on there. Obviously, the stormwater planning has to be finished up. They'll have to do a final stormwater plan overall for the development. They have done some preliminary work on the stormwater and have suggested some things that they may do on the site to handle the runoff that's being caused by the development. One of the issues, though, is coordination between this University Park and the existing development around it, because we do have flow that comes through this property on the kind of southwest corner of the property and heads off into the University Park property. To start those discussions, we did have a conference call about a week ago, somewhere in there, where we had the consultant teams from both the projects, University Park and from Flint Trails, as well as city representatives from Public Works, to at least begin talking about the sensitivity that we see with stormwater, but also with utility placement along 167th. We do have some concerns regarding the idea of having all of these three entities, if you will, the two developments plus the city, since we're all kind of looking at this area from a utility standpoint as well, as we're looking at it to make sure we're coordinated on this. And it's going to be multifaceted, but at least we've got the teams introduced to each other. There's agreements to work in cooperation to try to handle this, and we hope that we're going to come up with some solutions that may help with all parties that are involved there. So we'll see what we can do, as opposed to just the normal retention or detention pond. We may need to look at some kind of step system or something like that, but we at least have started the conversation of coordinating on those issues.
All right, thank you. That was my question.
Commissioner Juniman?
I had another question for the traffic engineer. when you were looking out the long-range plan, do you know off the top of your head what the delta was changing from the office business zoning to this R4 zoning?
No, we did not do a comparison of what it was previously zoned. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to see, is this like push us into level F or level E or something like that?
Yeah, we just grew the existing volumes to a background level, which I wanted to say was like 3% per year over the 20-year forecast. Let's just check on that and just make sure I'm telling you the right percent. Yeah. So the University Park traffic study had indicated that the future growth rate of 3.1% was utilized for intersections north of Main Street. And so we used that same 3.1% growth over 20 years to account for any future background volumes on top of all the adjacent planned developments. But we didn't compare it to what it was previously zoned for specifically. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And then I know we talked a little bit about buffering and how there's a little bit wider buffer because I think there's the existing power line easement and 167th that's there currently. Is that correct? There's going to be that's the buffering essentially that distance, but there won't be like a physical tree or buffering like that's being proposed.
Well, so far we haven't seen a specific landscape plan for this development, but we do have the open space calcs and everything that they were putting on the south side. So in my presentation, I talked about that distance of that open area, and then also 167th Street as well. So when they bring back in the final development plan, we'll see more specifics on the landscape plan.
In addition to that, I think I'll add, especially along here, it's a little bit different than University Park where they set everything pretty far back from 167th Street. The site's a little bit tighter in that sense, so it doesn't quite have the same separation off 167th Street. The other thing that we have to be careful of is we've got two sets of electrical lines, overhead electrical lines running in this area. One set's Evergy, one set is City of Gardner. There's the potential that some of those are going to have to move with road improvements and different things there, so we're going to want to watch how the landscaping and buffering works out here, and we may have to make accommodations for movement of those facilities too, because otherwise if we put the wrong landscaping under the overheads, they may do well for a few years, but then the utilities will come in and take care of them.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, for sure. If Evergy has an easement along that line, that could be a significant cost for the city to have to move that line too. So yeah, that was my one concern, seeing the detention pond pretty close to where the public right-of-way is. There were just not a lot of room for future expansion there, but it looked like the right-of-way is fairly wide. But the comment on the just the trail system, I really appreciate that. I live in the neighborhood to the south there, and I walk up around University and around White and everything like that. I think putting in a development there is going to be a lot better than it just sitting vacant for a while. So I did appreciate the plan. It looked like it was very well thought through with it kind of cutting through the middle where there's going to be less traffic that should be cutting through the middle to get people walking to the middle so they can go to that amenity center. So I appreciated that. Looked like some good thought went in there. So that's all the questions I had.
Come back around to Commissioner Souza. Did you have anything you wanted to?
I just wanted to add that I'm going to commend the developers to try to build something different than apartments in the area. As Commissioner General, I also live in that area, so I appreciate you guys trying to build things different than apartments. It's nice to see. I really like the different kinds of houses and townhomes that you guys have built there. It's pretty neat. So just want to say that it's nice to see that we're not going to be seeing a lot of apartments there. So townhomes would be pretty good. So that's it.
Okay. There's no other questions or comments from the commissioners. I don't have anything else to add. I think this is a solid plan. I'll open it up for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Great.
After review of application Z-22-01 22-06, Associated Preliminary Development Plan, PDP-22-05, and Preliminary Plat, PP-22-05 for Flint Trails Townhomes. The Planning Commission recommends the governing body approve the request to rezone 28.86 acres from CO Commercial Office and CP2 Planned General Business Districts to RP4 Planned Mixed Density Neighborhood District Associated Preliminary Development Plan and Preliminary Plat subject to the following conditions. 1. Approval of all deviations as presented. 2. Public Works Department approval of the preliminary stormwater management plan and the traffic impact study. 3. Applicant must coordinate their stormwater and public improvements with Public Works in regards to the city's planned 167th Street Improvement Project.
I'll second.
Actually, this is good. So we had a motion made by Ham with a second by Sosa. We have any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries with all in favor, 5-0.
Madam Chair, for the record, I'll just let people know that this item will go to the City Council for consideration by the governing body on Monday, August 15th at their meeting at 7 p.m. So it will be heard at that meeting. They will take your recommendation into consideration and make a decision regarding approval or denial. I'll also note that staff took note of several of your comments regarding landscaping and hardscaping and things like that. So the applicant was here tonight, and on the final development plans, we'll see what we can do to address those concerns.
Great, thank you. All right. Regular agenda item number 3, Plaza South, Lot 7, Preliminary Development Plan, PDP-22-06. This is also a public hearing item. The northeast corner of Vivian Street and 187th Terrace. And I will note for the record that all commissioners in front of you, you do have a copy of the applicant's presentation that was just handed out right as we were sitting down tonight. So, presentation from staff to start us off.
Again, this is the third and final item on the agenda tonight. It's a planned development. Basically, it's a revised plan development for Plaza South and specifically Lot 7. This request is for the approval of a revised preliminary development plan consisting of 3.8 acres on vacant land located in the northeast corner of 187th Terrace and Vivian Street for a retail, commercial, and a personal storage indoor use. The property was annexed back in 2001 and then rezoned to ACP2 back in 2019 with an associated development plan. The approved preliminary development plan designated this lot for a 136-unit independent and assisted living facility. This is being brought back before you as a revised preliminary development plan because the requested change in use is considered a substantial departure from the approved original plan. And I didn't include a site plan as part of my presentation, but you'll see that from the applicant's engineer. They can sell their project. I'm not going to. Staff findings: the application is a substantial change from the original approved plan. No deviations are considered with this change in use. And the plan reflects general accepted and sound planning and urban design. The plan generally meets all the review criteria for the zoning map amendment as well. The staff recommends approval of preliminary development plan 2206 for Plaza South Lot 7 and recommends forwarding the application to the governing body with the conditions outlined below.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant then with us this evening? So please come forward, state your name and address for the public record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Greg Musil, 5250 West 116th Place, Suite 400, Leawood, Kansas, with the Rouse Fretz Law Firm. Here to assist Plaza Developer South, Tom Van Kiersbilk. I never get Tom's name right. I would change it to Smith. is here tonight, along with Judd Clausen from Phelps Engineering and Brad Tidwell. Brad is with Oakview Capital Partners, and they are the developers ready to go on the indoor climate-controlled storage portion of this. So sometimes there are questions about those kind of facilities that we wanted to make sure you could have answered tonight from the horse's mouth, if it were. First of all, we agree to all the conditions that have been proposed in the proposed motion that you've seen, and I do have a PowerPoint. You've seen some of the vicinity map, but I think it's important to note how relatively close this is to the interchange on I-35. This is the highlighted area, which is on the map in front of you. I've got kind of a summary here, a couple summary slides. This would create two lots, Lot 7A and Lot 7B. And one lot would be for the indoor climate-controlled storage, and one lot for the 8,400 square feet of inline retail. So do that. It removes the planned 4-story senior independent and assisted living facility that was on the same footprint basically as the indoor climate controlled building. And we'll see that when we go through the approved site plan and then our proposed site plan. So instead of the 4-story, you'll have a 2-story building there, and we add the inline retail. The development is underway, and if you've seen it, you've seen not just dirt being moved, but the internal streets are in there, all the utilities are in there, and we have some users, as I'll show you in a minute, on our site plan. But we have a priority fast food facility that's getting close to going in, a quality credit union going in, a new to market automatic car wash, and then the New Life Church is on the southwest side of that and is getting ready to start sending permits, as I understand it, into the city. We believe this use will increase activity in this key commercial corridor, and we've very much appreciated working with staff to try to address their concerns about what we'll talk about in a minute is kind of a unique zoning district that's relatively new, and this was the first preliminary development plan, the approved one, as I understand it, ever approved under the ACP2 zoning category. So you got some of the history from Bob. It was rezoned to this Activity Center Plan District ACP2 in 2019. That incorporates the underlying zoning district uses. So it incorporated the CP2 uses, which include indoor climate controlled storage and the inline retail. We think, as staff indicated in its report, the proposed uses comply with your comprehensive plan. No deviations are requested. All site standards have been met for the preliminary plan. And I appreciate Bob putting in his, the staff report said it generally accepted sound planning and urban design standards have been met. We believe this use is more consistent with the uses around it, as I'll talk about in a moment, than a senior living facility. And there are some final details in the conditions that we have to do at final plan, traffic, stormwater, landscape, that will be brought back to you with the final plan. I don't know how familiar you are. This was my first look at the ACP2 zoning district because it's relatively recent. And it has 4 kind of bullet points of the intent for it, which were listed in the staff report. And basically it appears to me along a key commercial corridor, which is in three of the bullet points, to create some activity, to create some complementary uses within a center, and then for the greater area for people to walk to and people to use within a certain distance of the interstate exchange, but also not that far from residential uses. We believe that the senior living created a more imposing structure and less activity than we will have with these uses. It wasn't compatible with a commercial corridor. When I show you the map, I think you'll understand that it would look out of place if you plop that color in there for what you're normally used to seeing in your developments. And this will be better and more complementary activities. This is the 2019 preliminary development plan. If you look along the northern border, you see that long length of 4-story building, which was going to be the senior living center. I don't know if I can, is there a mouse that I can show that with? Yeah, that's right. The northern at the top of the screen there in the red box, that is the north wall of the 4-story senior living facility. You go to this is the current site plan that we're proposing, and I'll get a close-up later, but relatively the same footprint, only 2 stories instead of 4 stories. you'll see to the left, that's where the new to market car wash will go. 2 lots down is the credit union banking facility, and a lot down from there is the restaurant site that will go in, and then to the southwest is the New Life Church. This is a close-up of the site plan. One thing that we'll note is that you see the sidewalks in the kind of crosshatch, so there's connectivity within the center. And in the lower left-hand corner, there is a pedestrian-oriented space that we will do at final plan with landscaping. So it will be similar. I don't think many of you were on the commission when New Life Church was done, but there's on the south side of the New Life Church, there's a walking path and a little bit of a wider green space that this will feed into to the west and on over to South Gardner Road. This is the zoning map, and it's that log rectangular block on the right side of where you see CP2. To the north is residential, and there would be this one little block of a residential use that would be stuck in the middle of that red if the senior living were there. Mr. Van Kiersbulk is here, and he can tell you that after this was rezoned in 2019, he reached out to some senior living developers, and a couple responded. They did not like this site. 136 units wasn't a large site. It's not a site where people want to go now. People want to go more in a residential style area where they're tied into the rest of the community instead of separated from it. He looked into that. It didn't work, and he can tell you more about that if you have questions. Here are some elevations of a typical indoor climate-controlled storage facility that Mr. Tidwell could tell you about. It is done with high-quality materials. It is not in and of itself a high-traffic generator, although most of us, probably all of us in our lifetime, will have a storage unit at some point, and it rotates. You don't go there every day. The inline retail will generate more activity than the larger storage facility. We did get an email from New Life, the senior pastor at New Life Community Church, and thought we'd share that with you, that they support this development. And that's really what we have. Judd Klost is here if there are questions on stormwater, landscaping, all of which will be addressed at the final plan. And again, Mr. Tidwell is here if you have questions about indoor climate-controlled storage. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Since this is a public hearing item, we'll now open the public hearing. Those wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address for the public record. You will have approximately 5 minutes for comment. Seeing I don't think anyone's wanting to speak on this item, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing made by Ham with a second by Janaman. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Public hearing is closed. All right, commission discussion. Commissioner Soza, we'll start down with you. We've got the applicant and several members of their staff with us, and also we have our staff here. So, questions, comments?
Just have a question. So about this indoor control climate storage unit, is it open 24 hours? Do people have access to the units, or?
My name is Brad Tidwell. I'm the developer of self-storage facility, 178 Jellicoe Circle, South Lake, Texas. No, nothing good's going on in the middle of the night in a storage facility. So we always have controlled access, usually between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. No one can gain access to the building. The office itself is usually open 9 to 6, but only tenants that have access codes can get in when the office is not open. Yeah.
You know, I had the feeling that those facilities that are open 24 hours attract, I don't know. So that's why I was
Yeah.
thinking to have it
After midnight, right?
Yeah.
24
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
So
Nothing.
Those
That's
only-
not a good thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all I had. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ham?
Yeah, I was a little reluctant when I first read all of this. I was thinking about the homes that are the subdivision what was proposed there is 4-story unit, with the living center, retirement center versus what you're proposing. So I think that's probably the better option. And to Commissioner Souza, thank you for asking that question about being open late. I know because it backs up to that residential area, I know people don't want activity late at night around a residence. So I think that's, and you, like you said, we'll get the landscaping during the final plan. So we'll have, I just, even though the building is nice, I still want to make sure that the homes that are backing up to that still have something nice to look at, and it's not just there.
Right.
Yeah, some transition or something. So, that's all I have.
Just want to thank the gentleman for the presentation and the handouts here. It kind of cleared up some questions that I had, and echo the comments made by my fellow commissioners here regarding access time and hours. You know, most storage facilities having wire fences around them and things of that nature. So this is much more appealing to the eye, and also knowing that we're going from what was originally proposed to be a 4-story project to a 2-story project. I know sight lines in the community are important, and so that's certainly an upgrade and an improvement, and the plans look great, so I'm good.
Commissioner Ginniman?
Yeah, I think I shared a lot of the same concerns as the other commissioners. So yeah, I don't really have too many questions. Just the one would be, I don't know, what's the plan for like the runoff in this development here? Is there like going to be a detention area that's going to be built in the future, or because I mean we've done I think a couple of these sites recently, and they're all small pad sites, and I know there's different requirements. But I just didn't know what the grand master plan is for the site.
Judd Clausen, Phelps Engineering, 1270 North Winchester, Olathe, Kansas. The whole Plaza South development was set up with kind of a regional detention system. The portion of the site drains back towards the west, the portion drains back towards the east, and we built those detention basins and outlet structures and infrastructure up front with the original streets and put all that in so that each individual lot as it developed didn't have to worry about that as part of it. So it was thought of as it went in. This is going to have real similar runoff as to the original site. As you can see, there was a lot of paving and building with the original site as well. So that's factored in, and it'll be all documented with our final stormwater report. So we don't expect any changes to our original, any changes to the detention system that's out there already in place for it.
And then maybe a question for the developer, but with the retail, you said you don't have a developer for that sublot yet, but how many, like, I mean, I assume it's like kind of like the sectioned off retail, kind of similar to other spots in town. Do you envision how many businesses might potentially be in that building?
So yeah, I helped Tom with putting that together. It's basically a kind of a standardized 60-foot deep building, which is pretty typical for what you'd see with inline type retail. I think the building's about 8,400 square feet or so. I'd anticipate about 7 different units that could be developed there, but you might have someone that takes 2 bays in it. So really it's just kind of, it would be built speculative, which is how you would build something like that. And it might have, an insurance agent in it, a hair salon, something like that, that goes into that building, which are nice complementary uses for that center that's already out there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I feel that my questions, comments have been answered by commission discussion, and having seen the presentation from the applicant, looking at the elevations concept, I know we'll see more with the final design, but it was reassuring to see what this was going to potentially become. So I appreciate that.
And Madam Chair, the other part of this, and the applicant can certainly attest to this, or the applicant's representatives can certainly attest to this. I will tell you the staff has been very sensitive about this because, as noted, this ACP zoning district, I believe this is the only parcel in Gardner that had, I say only parcel, the development. It has that ACP designation to it, which adds an added layer of some of the enhanced characteristics than what we would normally have with just a CP2 or C2 zoning. So we've been very sensitive to the fact that any change in here could raise some questions or issues, both at the level of the Planning Commission, but also at the level of the governing body itself on this one. So that's the reason for the lengthy list of conditions, quite frankly, when you read those. Some of this is to ensure that the governing body is well aware of what's going on and whatever changes in that development if they choose to approve that. So just want you to be aware of that.
Thank you. We don't have any other commission comments, questions, discussion. I'll entertain a motion. Oh, wait, hold on.
Quick question, what is a level 3 landscape buffer? I read that.
Should I fill time while you look it
One day.
Okay.
Yeah, there's.
But not level 4.
All right, a level 3 landscape buffer. It requires one large, medium, or small tree per 40 linear feet, one evergreen per 30 linear feet, or a 6-foot solid fence with plant materials to the outside, one shrub for every 10 linear feet, and at least 12 foot of perimeter depth.
So So that would be, that's the minimum requirements, things like that. I will say we are going to be sensitive. You know, many times we're focused on the public visual element coming off of a public road or from a public area. In this case, also with the residential being to the north, we're going to be sensitive to that landscaping and that buffering on the north side, as well as other visual aspects of the architecture, glare from lights, different things like that. So there's some discussions. Again, we have a good working relationship with the applicant's representatives on this. So I do think that we'll be looking at these concerns in a common way to make sure they're addressed appropriately.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Commission? I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I can go for it.
Okay.
After review of applications PDP-22-06 Plaza South Lot 7, revised preliminary development plan dated June 6, 2022, and staff report dated July 25th, 2022, the Planning Commission recommends the governing body approve the applications as proposed, providing the following conditions are met.
And Commissioner Juneman, I'm going to suggest, since these are documented and they're quite lengthy, that you can just note as documented in the staff recommended motion as shown on the screen.
Gladly.
Go from there.
As noted in the staff report, is that?
I would say in the staff suggested motion as shown on the screen.
Okay. In the staff suggested motion as shown on the screen.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Juneman with a second by Souza. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All in favor.
As with the last item, I'll just note that this item will go to the City Council for governing body consideration at its August 15th meeting at 7 p.m. in these chambers.
Fantastic. Any discussion items tonight from staff?
Just a couple brief items. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. Last month I told you mobile food trucks and mobile food truck courts and things like that are on our agenda and on our radar. We have been working closely with a couple of providers, vendors here that have had their trailers or their trucks on location to make sure they're hitting the fire requirements and some of the other requirements of the city. But we will be looking at ordinance updates. Just haven't had enough time this month to get to those fully. I'm hopeful to have something in a draft form, at least to you, by your next Planning Commission meeting here in August. So hopefully you'll see something in that draft form. I'll handle it kind of like we have with other amendments in the past, get you something in the draft, let you have some time to look at it, get comments from you, then we'll schedule the public hearing element of it after that. So we'll at least get you some time to talk about it before we go to actually public consideration and a recommendation motion on that. So that's there. Reappointments are still there. I talked to the city clerk today. They have, I think, a couple more interviews to do of the people, the applicants that were there. And I believe the schedule is to try to get those done this week. I believe that's the schedule. I want to say even as quickly as tomorrow, but I don't want to commit to it because I can't remember the specific date that she told me. So, but I believe it's this week that they're trying to get that done. A lot of it's been just scheduling stuff between the committee from the governing body that does that set of interviews and the applicants trying to get those dates arranged. So hopefully we get that resolved and done fairly quickly, and then we can get on our way with the other aspects of what we need to do to elect officers and things like that. But don't be worried, as has been practice, your appointments continue on until there's a decision made. So it's not a matter of we're in any kind of legal trouble, right, Spencer?
Well, they're not, no. No, nobody is. We're all good.
Okay, good, cool.
If I'm not present after this week, you'll know why,
You know what happened.
obviously, because I took one for the team.
We're all good. Yeah.
No, we're good, so I think we're all right there. Other than that, don't have much to report at this point in time, so if you have questions, be glad to answer those.
I think we have anything else from the commissioners this evening, so I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
We have a motion to adjourn made by Ham with a second by Juneman. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.